Welcome and everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. It is an early Wednesday morning. It's hump day nonetheless. Middle of your week, you're on the other side of it, and here comes the weekend the next thing you know. So that's always a good thing, and it's always a great time to talk Arkansas Razorbacks men's basketball. Good morning to everyone who joins me, the hardy souls who are brave enough to jump on here early in their morning, and let's talk recruiting. We're going to talk recruiting, and we're going to talk about what it's going to take, what it would look like for maybe two or three players that we project maybe to be the kind of the centerpieces of this next Arkansas Razorback squad, upcoming 2025-26 season. We're going to look at maybe some All-American candidates because we talked about it yesterday. John Calipari on a recent podcast with John Rothstein just last month was talking about how to be, really a Final Four contender, a national championship kind of team. You need at least a couple of top 10 players. And so we think Arkansas, when you talk top 10, you're talking national. And yesterday I was going back and forth with the difference between a top 10 player as it pertains to projecting as a first round NBA draft pick, a lottery pick, a top 10 kind of guy, and how sometimes and often now it looks much different than when you look at your All American teams. And that's what really, when you look at the All American teams now, those are kind of the best players on the best teams out there. And so if you're trying to win, if you're trying to get to that final weekend, you're probably talking about players that are the kind of caliber that could at minimum be an All-American. It's not we're not minimalizing that, but compared to a lottery pick kind of talent. And maybe you're both. Maybe as a player you're both. But we're going to start today with two. I think there are probably three players I would start with at Arkansas to have a conversation about All-American today. The one that we're going to start with is Carter Knox. We're going to get to that last. The first things we're going to talk about as we get into our segment today are recruiting. So we've got some more intel for you. It has been an intel-rich week. We started Saturday dropping 5 big intel bombs. We had more follow-up when we came back on Monday. We had even more yesterday, not as much, but we had additional intel to bring. We've got a few more things to bring today that I find important as we look at the class of 2026, because this is really, it's hot and heavy right now, setting up visits. We know Arkansas has now 4 visitors on the record. They've got, that we've talked about, 2 other players. We're going to run back through everybody. 2 other players that they're trying to finalize visit dates on. Well, now we have a 3rd player, and this is what I teased. You'll see his photo as in tandem with Carter Knox in the thumbnail for this segment. But class of 2026, previously class of 2027, recently reclassed Baba Aladdin, the 6'10" combo forward out of Silver Springs, Maryland. We've talked forever about how Arkansas has prioritized him as a class of 2027 prospect. Got that initial offer from John Calipari. Arkansas made first contact when they could at the stroke of midnight on June 15th. Calipari and staff courtside for just about all of his games with Team Durant, playing up 17U, and then recently announced he's reclassing. And we've come on here with intel. He was part of the Saturday intel that Calipari is prioritizing to an extent of, even now with this reclass, Arkansas it wants to fully inject itself into this process and hopefully fast track getting Aladdin on board and becoming a Razorback. There are obviously a lot of programs after a player with his talents, and again, the number 1 player in class of 2027. Since his reclass, 247 Sports has ranked him the 8th best player in its rankings in the class of 2026 now. And I mentioned back when we were talking about the reclass that I would say that he would be, for me, top 10, potentially top 5, but certainly top 10 moving up to 2026. That's how 247 Sports sees it. So the update here is, this is today's intel. We just caught you up with where we got to this point. I learned yesterday that Arkansas is in the process, both player and Arkansas's coaching staff, of finalizing a visit date with Baba Aladdin. And so this will bring to 7 players, a total of 4 that we know the dates, 2 more that we've talked about in recent days where they're finalizing dates, and now a 3rd player where they're working on finalizing a date. So it's a total of 7. So we don't know the dates yet. For good morning, Kevin. Enjoy listening to your information live chat. Thank you, Greg. Greg, thank you, sir. Appreciate that, and I appreciate you tuning in, and everybody else who does. Again, the early morning crew. Salute to all of you. But Baba Allah Dotton, how about that? Arkansas is working to finalize a visit date. And so, just running back through it, the four that we know about are on consecutive weekends. So back to back to back to back. If I said that four times, that's what I meant to do. Right now, the way the schedule sets up, top 10 5-star rated big man, 7'1", 280-pound center, Irfan Diani, coming in, planned for now, September 12th through 14th. There's no football game, home game that weekend. Arkansas will be on the road, so you won't get the fan base experience if you're Irfan Diani. The following weekend, Arkansas is set up for Jordan Smith Jr., class of 2026, 6'2" guard out of Virginia, second ranked player in the country in my rankings, top 2 or 3 in most of the rankings that are out there. Early bird gets the info. That's right. Good morning. Thank you for the comments. And so you've got that following weekend, September 20th through the 21st. So Diane, then you move on the following weekend. Again, Arkansas football's on the road. They're not at home when Jordan Smith Jr. will be in the house. So you don't have that, again, that fan base experience for a game. Then the following weekend after that, another 5-star top 15 rated guard out of the state of Kentucky, plays at Overtime Elite, Tay Kinney. We know his visit dates, September 26th to 28th. There is a home football game, Notre Dame. It's a big one, so he's going to get that full atmosphere. So that's the third consecutive weekend where you'll have an official visitor. And then just yesterday, I reported, I reported it on Monday, and then we talked about it on yesterday's show, that Arkansas is going to have a visit with Cole Clower, national top 25, 6'7", 6'8", small forward, combo forward, maybe there's an ability to play a small ball forward in the college level. But Cole Clower out of the state of North Carolina is coming in to visit Arkansas, official visit, October 3rd to the 5th. Arkansas has a bye week that week in football. So, again, no home fan base. So those are the 4 known dates. But we've also reported to you that Abdou Toure, who took class of 2026, national top 25 5-star, 6'5", 6'6" wing, Notre Dame High School out in Connecticut, informed me that he's going to take the official visit to Arkansas and told me he would release those visit dates on Sunday, so several days ago. But we also told you we had a source saying, well, they're actually still finalizing his date. And so if they can get it done in time for him to make the announcement as soon as Sunday, great. If not, maybe a bit later. And we're in the a bit later stage right now. But he's personally told me, yep, I'm coming back for an official visit. We've been talking about that for about a month now. I've been in on a couple of these segments, talked about, put it in my Razorback Hoop Hogs recruiting updates that I post over on HogvilleNET, published articles there in Pig Trail Nation, and it's notated in there going back to July that he's been wanting to get back to Arkansas. Took the unofficial visit back in October of 2024, wanting to get back for an official visit. Now he's told me he will, still finalizing that date. Another player that I brought you intel on Saturday, top 5 rated 5-star. I've got him tied for the second best player in the country, along with Jordan Smith Jr., who we've just mentioned his official visit date. Caleb Holt out of the Atlanta area, prolific prep this upcoming season after playing at Grayson High School. And a source had told me that the staff and Holt are working to finalize a visit date for him to come to Arkansas. And so it's been kind of quiet with his recruitment, especially the Arkansas part of it. But that was exclusive intel that we brought you, that there's a process in place to get that visit set up. And now Baba Allah Dotton. So those are the 7 names. Again, 4 we've identified dates. The other 3 we're hoping to hear about soon. And it's a wide enough net. If you're John Calipari, you're only going to take 3 or 4 in a class. And you've already got J.J. Andrews, who I've got ranked as the 4th best player in the country, 5-star, 6'6" wing at Little Rock Christian, committed to Arkansas back in mid-May. He's a legacy in-state kid, and just dominated the spring and summer circuit on Nike EYBL, the best of the best. Won Peach Jam, won the MVP of that, yada yada. You know what the story is there, but you got 1 off the board. So if you're doing math, if you're taking 3 or 4, you got 1, maybe 2 or 3, and you've got right now 7 dudes, studs. I mean, these are all effectively top 25, every one of them. Several of them top 5 or top 10. They're 5-star players. And so you're working out the details to get visits. You're not going to get all of these players, but you're going to get some. You're going to get some. You're going to get more than just J.J. Andrews, and you're going to get top level guy. And we talk about Baba Aladat, and you look at what Calipari and the staff have accomplished with Trevor Brazile and his turnaround, the makeover, what he did to finish last season, what the projections are coming into this season, the added strength and weight, a lot of things. He's going to be a guy that's going to have to be replaced. And when we look at this current Arkansas roster, there's really not any depth behind him at that spot. Paulo Samido, a 7-1 center coming in, 4-5 combo, be a guy they'll work on developing. He might be ready to come in and help fill those minutes once Brazile moves on. We don't know how much he'll play this upcoming season, but you're certainly trying to find more than just that. You're looking for top level guys that are going to be your kind of NIL value kind of guys on the front end. And again, arguably the top player in the 2027 class has a case as a top 5 player, if not any top 10 rated so far, now that he's moved to 2026. He's a guy that positionally you could see slotting in that 4-5 role that Brazile's played. Calipari and his coaching staff have a long track record of guys they've developed on the front line, going back to Kentucky, Memphis before that. But the recency of what they're doing with Brazile, because by the time, if you can get Aladat on a visit, home state school, Maryland, he's already got a visit set up there. There's Gonzaga. There's other schools in the mix, obviously, for this player, Blue Bloods included. But if you can get him on campus and get him wrapped up in November, in the early period, you really won't have seen yet what the true Trevor Brazile effect will be in his final season, because the season just starts at that time. But you got a lot to sell and show players that say, hey, this guy, here's how we've helped him. He'll be gone. Here's where you can step in. It's why we talk about Mika Miernan, who took that visit last fall to Arkansas. And we've part of the reporting and intel that you've received the last few days, the staff is still prioritizing him, still pursuing him, still in it to win it, as I like to say with Mika Miernan, 6'10" out of Finland, similar positionally to Baba Aladat. And they have those soft skills, face up, can stretch the floor, shoot the three. They've got dribble craft to set up mid-range shots. They'll finish above the rim. They're rim protectors. Aladat, and if there's a knock right now, it's just adding strength, physical maturity, strength, that kind of thing, playing through contact. But those are things that he'll continue to improve on. I've made comparisons with him also, a pro comparison to Evan Mobley. With Mika Miernan, it's been Lauri Markkanen. So there are NBA players that these guys sort of slot as, when you look at them, what their strengths are, what their skill sets are, and how they might, translate and fit in at the college level, and then moving on to the NBA. And the idea for a guy like Aladat is he's looking to be a one and done a year sooner than he would if he'd have stayed in the 2027 class. So again, as a staff, Arkansas's got a lot to sell. We know that. And the goal here is to get this visit ironed out, get it announced, and get him on campus. So Arkansas, we've moved beyond Arkansas's obviously prioritizing him. When both parties are ironing out a visit date, that's always good news, because there's a difference between that and efforting getting someone in for a visit. And now we just keep our eyes on the ball here and see what else we need to talk about. And hopefully the next thing is we know a visit date. So that's the intel on yet another top 10 rated 5-star player that Arkansas is in maybe the late stages of setting up a visit with. A source, this is interesting. I talked to another source yesterday that has gotten some, kind of paraphrasing some Calipari recruiting pitch, some of the thoughts he has, and some of these dialogues he's having with parents, recruits, whoever's in their camp. And some of this was really interesting that's gotten back to me. Jordan Smith Jr., we talked about what the dad told me back when I talked to his dad, and he told me the visit dates for Arkansas. We put that out on Twitter. Then we came on our next segment and went through a lot of intel, stuff he told me about what put Arkansas, kind of front and center. And we believe Arkansas is up there in the top 3. Duke, Georgetown, I have a source, this, we've talked about it a lot, thinks Arkansas is the leader there. Most of the other things I hear, it's either Duke or Georgetown. So We'll see where this lands. You get a visit in, you get them in for a visit. I always say Advantage Cal, but the dad told me that they had a really good relationship, not only with Calipari, but the entire coaching staff. And Calipari's track record, especially looking around the board recently, getting guards to the NBA is what matters. So that's what the dad told me. Now I have a source saying that one of Calipari's, I guess, selling points and the dialogue he's having with the family is not just about his track record with getting guards, but helping Jordan Smith Jr. transition to a point guard, a lead guard for the next level. Now, the one thing we've talked about, I've seen Jordan Smith Jr. play a bunch in person, quite a bit, and he's really been kind of an off guard, kind of a combo, but not playing on the ball as much as a teammate, playing a little bit off the ball. Really good length, explosive athleticism, big, strong guy. So he's able physically, and because of his arm length, to match up with fours. With two guards and with some wings. And then when you saw him in the FIBA U19 World Cup over in Switzerland, I didn't see those in person. I had to live stream it, but I live streamed every minute of every one of those games. He started all of them, and he was playing off the ball. He was really an off the ball player. So he's got the tools to be a lead guard, but there'll be a transition for him. And I think what's interesting is Calipari's driving that selling point. It's not to say that schools like Duke and Georgetown aren't telling him the same thing, but we talk about Arkansas Razorbacks men's basketball. And so when I get information, not long ago, I told you that Cal had a source telling me that he was saying good things about Isaiah Seeley and that Seeley does things that he couldn't coach. Well, Cal told us in a press conference a bit later, using a similar phrase. Well, you heard it here first, weeks before that. Recently, with the Anthony Spratt Jr. commitment that we broke that news on Monday on Twitter, talked about it yesterday. But weeks ago, if you're paying attention, he was telling people this is probably the earliest that I'll have ever offered a player before he offered him. And then he made the offer, and we talked about that again. And then I have a quote from Spratt that I'm going to tweet out later today, his reaction to getting this offer. And he says that Calipari told him he might be the youngest or earliest that he's offered a guy. So we'd like to give you glimpses of things we hear, that what Cal says, maybe before it bubbles up and really gets out there in the mainstream. So the whole point here is he's drilling down beyond, I get guards in the NBA. He's like, I'm going to help you be a point guard. Well, I've made the player comparison to Cason Wallace, who played for Cal at Kentucky, was a one and done there, a 5-star, similar rating. End up being a lottery pick after a one and done season. Spratt has you so hyped. That's a great comment. Yeah. 6'5", 6'6", going to be a really good player. I mean, he already is, relative to his age, he's a really good player. But going back to Jordan Smith Jr. and comparing him to Cason Wallace has played a lot off the ball in Oklahoma City. He wasn't a primary guard all the time at Kentucky. He's played a lot, again, off the ball, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being the MVP of the league, but also the primary ball handler. And you see a lot of Cason Wallace's minutes playing off the ball. In his second season, this most recent championship season, his role changed a little bit. He actually evolved into more of a lead guard primary handler, even at times where they were trying to take pressure off Shai and give him, not have him have to bring it up all the time and playing him off the ball a little bit, getting the ball across half court, initiating the offense, and then the ball ends up with either Shai or J-Dub, Jalen Williams, not our Jalen Williams, the other one that was an NBA All-Star. But you saw more and more Cason Wallace initiating offense for Oklahoma City this past season compared to his rookie season. And so he's starting to evolve into more of a lead guard role. He looked comfortable in those situations. He did a really good job facilitating. And we're talking about Jordan Smith Jr., but that is a strong player comp. And I think if you're selling your ideas, you not only point to the success you had bringing a player to Kentucky, in the case of Cason Wallace, for a year, helping him be a lottery pick, helping his development. You can point to a lot of other players before that, but just this most recent one, and how they're so similar, and how, look, this guy is now making that transition to more of a primary handler kind of player. Defense is really his bread and butter. The same with Jordan Smith Jr. They can defend ones all day long. and other positions, twos, even some threes, because of how strong they are and how locked in they are, how gritty they are. But to really make that transition, it's primary ball handler. It's understanding how to set an offense, how to get the ball to guys on time, on target, and play with a pace that helps establish a good offensive flow. So there's all kinds of stuff that goes into that. So it's really cool to hear that Calipari is making that pitch. A couple other things that this same source told me when we start looking around the board and we see who Arkansas is recruiting outside of J.J. Andrews. When we talk Abdu Torre, again, finalizing an official visit, Cole Clower has an official visit to Arkansas. They're not all exactly the same kind of player, but positionally you could say, well, that's a bunch of wings. You're only taking 3 or 4 guys. Do you really expect to grab another wing outside of J.J. Andrews? Well, we've said this a lot. Calipari does this. Carter Knox, Billy Richmond III, a recent example coming to Arkansas, right? And then he's added Isaiah Seeley to that mix, a wing in the following class. And so you're 3 deep there, same position, not that they have all the same skill sets. But his idea, I'm told what he's part of his selling pitch, and I guess part of the dialogue with both camps is, yeah, he's got J.J. Andrews, but he sees both of these players as complementary players with J.J. They can be on the court together. So what does that look like? Well, how do Carter Knox and Billy Richmond III get on the court together? Sometimes BR3 is kind of your facilitator, initiating your offense for a few minutes. You know, last year was your third option until he was your second option at the lead guard spot. As weird as that sounds, that's how some of that played out. Carter Knox playing some small ball 4 while Billy Richmond III's at the wing. We'll see some of that this year. We'll see some Carter Knox maybe at the 2. Some. They're going to move him around a little bit potentially. Primarily as a wing, but there's opportunities to use him in a couple of different ways and to have guys players that you think are the same position be on the court together. So when you're recruiting, you're doing the same thing. Torre could be a 2, a big guard or a wing. J.J. Andrews, I see the same way. There's a potential again for Clower to be that small forward wing and can be a small ball 4 for you. So he could be on the court with another wing, a big and 2 guards, or 3 guards and a big. But there's a way to mix and match these guys where it makes sense while you would try to stockpile what you think is just the same position, but you can have a versatility within that. I mean, J.J. Andrews I call him the slash, clash, and cash king, and Clower is going to stretch the floor. So you could see both of those dudes on the court together and complementing each other. But the talking points I'm hearing specifically coming from Calipari have these ideas in mind, that there's a complementary aspect to why the player would want to come and play with a J.J. Andrews, as opposed to, trying to over-explain, yeah, well, we'll make it work. Yeah, y'all play the same position, but no, they have a vision for how that works and why it makes sense. And so I think that's good information for, again, a single source that has, I guess, from these camps, the way he extracted it, or some of the things that Calipari's talking about in this recruitment of these specific players. So there's 3 names there where Calipari's, got a plan. He's got a plan that helps, kumbaya, even if someone looks like you might be competing for his time. No, you'll have your own time and your own opportunity. All right, let's move on now. Carter Knox. We've talked recruiting. Let's move on to Carter Knox as an All-American candidate. What does that look like? We've said he's potentially could be Arkansas's leading scorer. We see an increase in role and minutes for him, obviously. Tested the NBA draft waters, came back to school. That was never in doubt. Maybe a smidgen of doubt. You never know. But we felt like that was pretty certain he was coming back. But there are projections for him to potentially be a first rounder in the next draft after his sophomore season. I had an NBA scout that was out to see him at that elite camp a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. It seems like forever ago now. That was talking about him in terms of, he said the way that he phrased it was, he's trending toward a first round draft pick in the next draft. So these scouts won't say that when they watch a player if they're not seeing it. They'll just scratch that. They're not going to throw a talking point that's been out there by others in the media or whatever. Yeah, he's going to come back and go be a first rounder. Once they put eyes on you the next time, if they're not seeing that, they're not going to refer to you as trending as a first round NBA draft pick. It's a long way away from there. Doesn't mean that that'll stick and that'll still be the opinion later. But as of now, that's where it's trending. That's what they see. And so if you're having, and then we heard to finish up summer camp, when they broke for summer camp, remember we did a top 5 players from Arkansas's limited summer work. He got in late. He was much later than most of the team, and it was kind of slow going for him initially. But by the end of it, he was on a tear. He kind of finished the last couple of weeks as maybe the main dude walking out of the building. Overall, it was Trevor Brazile. Carter Knox worked his way up the list by finishing strongly. So you got a lot of stuff that maybe tells you that he's trending toward something maybe that could be better than all SEC. I mean, he's got to go out and prove all SEC. That's one conversation, and we've talked about that a lot, speculated that that's a real possibility. But Carter Knox, what does it look like for him to be an All-American? I tell you, if you're looking at it from a production standpoint, you might be talking about 16.5 to 18 points, somewhere in there. That's quite a jump. If you look at the last 18 games of a 36-game season, when he really turned things around as a true freshman, between 10 and 11 points per game, shot over 43 plus % from three. Modest volume, but he really started to figure things out. By the end of the season, especially with Adu Thero out with injury, he became Arkansas's best free throw attempts creator by driving to the basket. He became a really strong defender on the wing. So it was both offense and defense where you saw the growth. So what kind of production in year 2? 16.5, 17, 18 points, 4.5, 5 rebounds. Can he get somewhere like that? Is he going to get up to 30 minutes per game or 32 minutes per game where, that kind of production on an average could be up there? So if you're looking for statistics, you probably need to be efficient and be one of those, maybe in those range of, statistical production when you start talking All-American. Those things you look at, obviously how well your team plays, what's the success level? A lot of your All-Americans are your best players on the best teams in the country. And usually those are the best players in the country, hence the teams are really good. So sometimes people throw that out there like a slight. Well, I don't know if he's the best player, but he was the best player on the best team. Well, that goes a long way. You probably are in the conversation as the best player if your team's really good and it's because you're really good. Anyway, so a lot of that won't be just about stats, right? It's about how many games do you win? Arkansas's got a loaded non-conference schedule made for TV matchups. Duke, Houston, Texas Tech, Michigan State when we learn that date, Louisville, and one of the top teams in the ACC under new management, and we know that's a borderline blue blood program all time. You got all kinds of crazy non-con matchups, and on top of that, you've got the best conference in the country, who ESPN's Joe Lunardi's projecting 14 teams once again, unprecedented until it was precedented, and now it might be matched again by the SEC. Games against Kentucky, Florida, Bama, Auburn. I mean, go down the list. Tennessee. There's so many big stage, made for TV, big moments. Carter Knox and other Hogs that we'll talk about after today, maybe with a chance to be an All-American. These guys are going to have their opportunities to be showcased. And if Arkansas wins the way that it has the potential to win and finally break through and be a winner in the SEC, potentially challenge for a league title, win its share of those tough non-conference games, be in the conversation as one of the top contenders for a Final Four, then your best players, if that's what you're doing and you're building a case as a team for a 1, 2, 3 seed, maybe even a 4, maybe even as low as that, you're now, some of your top players you're talking about as All-American potentials. That's probably the way that it would be. And so Carter Knox is one of those guys we check mark as maybe it's him. Maybe he'll be one of the guys. If Calipari says you need 2 top 10 players, then that's, you're talking All-American territory there. And so who is it? Who is it on Arkansas's team? Because he believes in this team. He's got the confidence level. You hear it in his voice when he talks about it. He's acknowledged he's scheduled the way that he did because he thinks his team can handle it. We know retention puts Arkansas near or at the top of not only the league but the country in terms of what you return in production, scoring, minutes, blah 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 blah. All that stuff's great, but at the end of the day, do you have All-Americans? Did Carter Knox have what it takes? A guy like Tega Owe at Kentucky is going to come in as one of the top geared wings in the country in terms of national talking heads, what the perception is. A guy that'll be, maybe they talk about in preseason as a potential All-American. Carter Knox, that's kind of the kind of elevation to his game. That's a guy coming off an All-SEC season last year in OA. Carter Knox had a true freshman season that got really good at the end, but we haven't had those conversations about proof of concept yet with him. If he becomes an all-league performer like OA was last year, then by the end of the season, maybe he's in that conversation for All-American. That's my point there. OA will come in as an example positionally into the season with that talk. We're saying it now, not that we think Knox will be projected as an All-American, but we're trying to kind of target track who for Arkansas maybe could become something like that through this upcoming season. All right, 30 minutes and 45 seconds in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. We're going to wrap it up pretty quickly. But I wonder what some of you think. And Carter, do you think Carter Knox has the chops to have an All-American season in Arkansas? I think it's a possibility. I think his development and growth, he looks fit as a fiddle. Physically, he looks great. So he's taking care of himself. He worked really hard through the draft process. He's worked really hard since getting back to campus. He impressed at the elite camp, that recent elite camp. Now you got the team moving back onto campus. What is the next step for Carter Knox? Can he help deliver? I'm telling you, if Arkansas has a great season and he's that guy in these made-for-TV games where he's not only winning his matchup, but he looks like the best player on the floor, or he's making the plays late in games to help you win, those things go a long way. I don't care how good your player is. They have to be insanely good if you have another season like Arkansas's had in the last few years with losing records in league play. Yeah, pick up some big wins here and there, but it's hard to finish as an All-American unless you're doing some insane work statistically, a la Mason Jones a few years ago. J.D. Notae was a third-team All-American on Arkansas's second Elite Eight team. The previous year, he was Sixth Man of the Year in the SEC. Can Carter Knox have the kind of season to give Arkansas another All-American at that, making one of the top three teams, which are 15 players in that group. So we're going to identify more than just Carter Knox's potentials. And then you wonder, can you pair a couple of those where you get two All-Americans? Because effectively, Calipari thinks that you got to have two top 10 players. Maybe you could have a guy that's an All-American and another player that maybe doesn't quite get there, but is a really good player and projects really highly in the draft, like a top 10 or lottery pick. And what he did for you that single season in concert with the All-American value player is good enough to help you be a Final Four contender and maybe a national championship contender. But we started with Carter Knox. Let's see where it goes. Big 6'6", strong, sturdy, 220 pounds, 225. He's got the tools to be an exceptional player. We're not predicting an All-American season. It's just a look ahead and wondering who for Arkansas could deliver on that. All right, we're going to sign off. If something important breaks today, something that's urgent, we need to get back on here and go live, we will. If not, we'll be back on probably again early tomorrow. Appreciate everyone who joins me early. For those that catch it later, I hope you enjoy it. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Be good. Be good in all your endeavors. We appreciate all of you. See you soon.